Hello, I am supposedly live. Am I audible? Hello. Oh, is the whole screen backwards for you all? Okay. This is my first time live streaming, and I was hoping not to embarrass myself. Um, Damn it, you dummy. Huzzah? Thank you for your understanding, Elder Kong. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. I think this is good to go. Like I said, this is my first live stream. So if there are any user experience issues, please do call them out. I will do my best to fix them. But yeah, I appreciate everybody making time for this, and I hope that it's an enjoyable. You're lagging. I mean, it could be something on my end. I mean, let me know if things get out of sync or something. Um, but yeah, these Phyllis calls are just so interesting. And as George often says, they're recorded without his knowledge. So that means everything he says is in some way completely accurate and telling. And as a data analyzer, it's just so cool to have these calls because they contain what is essentially like 100% pure uncut truth, and it's near impossible for Gigi to make any serious argument against what we learn, and it's all just so fascinating to me. So I thought it'd be cool just to have a discussion about a lot of different things that popped up in this latest call. And I hope I don't sound too weird. It's definitely going to take a minute for me to talk and read comments at the same time. I hope that's not a poor reflection on my intelligence level. All right, so this video this week entitled Gigi Badmouths Mary Elizabeth Needs a Bucket to Pee In. And there's the screenshot there. So some highlights from this one. Gigi does indeed badmouth Mary Elizabeth and then some. Also, some supporting characters around her. So we'll talk a little bit about Mary Elizabeth and where she fits within this universe. Diapers and diuretics. Yeah, shout out to Nurse Joy. She gets an acknowledge from Gigi on calling it from a mile away. George displayed a lot of energy and care into what goons were doing, even outside of just interacting with George content throughout this call. And I found it really interesting that it's usually him, not Phyllis, that brings up questions about what the goons are doing. And information none of us needed. George sexually pleasures himself to a photo of Jamie, who is deceased. So that's the full call. We don't need to listen to that. She's going to be enjoying the physical aspect as I tried to make his consciousness disappear. Well said. So yeah, as highlighted, George talked about Mary Elizabeth uh, in this one, and it also specifically referenced a friend of Mary Elizabeth who it was reported that she and George were romantically linked, if I remember correctly. What I found really interesting, though, is George, when referring to Mary Elizabeth, he refers to her as "that's Kevin's whatever," which to me is very telling and interesting that even in Kevin and Mary Elizabeth's circle, people do not know what the status of their relationship is. Like I interpret that the people closest to Mary Elizabeth and Kevin, like even they don't know if they are a couple or just friends. And I mean, I think that proves what has long been suspected about the ambiguous nature of this friendship. And, you know, the interest from Mary Elizabeth's side has seemed pretty black and white, but with Kevin, it's you just don't know for Mary Elizabeth if it's the right gender, if it's the right age. I do not know, but it's interesting that you know someone like George who is around both of them, doesn't have a label to put on that. Yeah, yeah. Mummy from Manitoblia said it well. Right. I mean, that's some heavy collateral damage that Mary Elizabeth seems to believe it's a level that Kevin does not, and so whatever Mary Elizabeth is giving to Kevin, it doesn't seem to be at all reciprocated, which is always sad to see. George says he's repulsed by Mary Elizabeth. We've got a clip with that here. Shout out to George Yarid has a negative bank account for the content. Thank you very much. I'm trusting you all can hear that audio from the video. If you can't, let me know. Yeah, that is really quiet. Thanks for the heads up. Let me circle back to that. Um, but yeah, so he also mentioned Mary Elizabeth's friend, and I don't know much about her. I know she's been covered a little bit. This screenshot is from uh, a video on Captain Corpulence's channel, one of my favorite YouTubers. And it was reporting that George and this woman on the left, of course, that's Mary Elizabeth on the right, the woman on her left. Oh, Miss Manny says her name is Marnie. Thank you. Um, she was romantically linked with George. And in this video, George vehemently denies that. And I find it interesting that he's so childish about it. Like he's in junior high and he's embarrassed to be, there's a rumor that he's dating somebody who may not be, physically attractive, which seems to be how he's judging her when he's complaining about her having Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, which are probably like the same thing to him. Let me see if I can figure out my audio thing real quick. Oh, that's cool to know. And yeah, Mary Elizabeth seems like a cool person too. George looks like a melted potato. Shoot. I don't think I have a good way to turn up the video audio without backing all the way out of this. So sorry. If I ever live stream again, I'll fix that. George's health was definitely another big topic that was covered. Yeah, that's true, Geyer Bay. And I mean, it's like Mary Elizabeth. She was totally cool. It seemed like with George coming on to Kevin's show. And if you remember that YouTube video on Kevin's channel, she looked pretty uncomfortable when he came in. And George even mentioned in a call with Phyllis, I believe, a past call with Phyllis, that he had noticed or he had seen that the trolls were talking about how she looked at him when she came in, like how her eyes, got really scared. And but she hung in there and she was cool with Kevin bringing his friend on. And that's Mary Elizabeth, I'm sure, has never received an invite on the Gorgeous George show and never would. That's not generosity that George would reciprocate. And so for him to be repulsed by her, I think is a pretty good show of his delusion. So as said, Nurse Joy predicted Gigi was on the diuretic. I don't remember exactly when. She might have come on a Fieldins, or maybe it was a ladies' night, but I do remember her saying that, and she called the shot that. And this was the clip I was going to play. I don't love, I'm sure we all don't love how he refers to her, but just how mad he got that she figured it out and knew is really funny to me. I think I think in this call also George referred to his leg as being like blown up like a watermelon or something, filled up like a watermelon, which I think is also another idiom that's been used. Diapers in the urine bucket. So yeah. Well, first off, I do want to say I think it's cool that Phyllis cares about his health. yeah, yeah, yeah. I noticed that too. George had to like sit down and research diapers. Like George had to like shut off the DoorDash, go to the library, sit down at the public computer, and like research which diapers were best for his situation. Um, but I thought it was cool that Phyllis was trying to help him work through that. Phyllis, I mean, she's on assignment. She has a job, but through these calls, she seems to genuinely care about George's health and gives him what seems like pretty good advice, especially with like diet. Um, and it's sad that he ignores that. Uh, I also found it very telling that when George initially talks about this, he says he needs to get a bucket for the urine. That was the specific word he used, bucket. Like if you were like driving long distance and you're a guy and you don't want to stop for the bathroom, like what would you get to pee in? Would it be like an empty Gatorade bottle or something with like a relatively small opening and a lid? Like it's crazy to me that George's first place was a bucket. Like there's just going to be like this big open container of his piss, and it's just going to be like in the van swashing around every time he changes lanes because he has to pass by a Amazon truck stopping to make a delivery. I don't understand his thought process. And yes, as Miss Mommy from Manitoba, can I call you Mel? I hope that's okay. I don't want to keep referring to that full name. Yeah, so the original shit bucket, it was so many years ago. George's water got cut off, and it was theorized, I believe, that he was shitting in a bucket in his backyard, and I mean the fact that when he needs somewhere to piss, that the first place that he goes is a bucket. I mean think you see a lot of connection there. Again, this being my first time, like I hope you can't hear me like drink water or something. If that, let me know how if the audio is like really bad. Yeah, his anger and road rage was on heavy display as well, which I think it's really showing of his narcissism that he drives around like he's an ambulance driver, not a door dasher who's bringing a salad to an administrative assistant, some office building in Richmond. I mean, he has the same attitude too. Like he mentioned going into a restaurant to get food and how these assholes were bumping him. Like I can totally see him like walking straight through a restaurant like he's the most important. He's delivering a heart, going in there getting the wings from B Dubs, and he's mad that people aren't getting out of the way for him. Yeah, finite that in this call when he had to like walk a little bit because the apartment was under construction or something. Yeah, I bet he feels pretty good about that. He went above and beyond. Yeah, yeah, gear pay. That I agree. I'm never amazed by the audacity. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the call when he does go into like a CVS or Walgreens, like it seems like he's asking the other person to get each individual item. Like if I'm interpreting that incorrectly, tell me. But it seems like he goes up to the counter and he like reads off each item individually, and then it sounds like that person's like going and getting it and bringing it back. Like especially if you're going in right before closing, like how you're not gonna be the one to just like go get all that stuff real quick. And I mean, don't Walgreens and CVS's, at least I in my city, our Walgreens and CVS's have self checkouts. Maybe not in Richmond yet, but I don't know. That could be something George can handle on his own. Yeah. I mentioned earlier. I think Phyllis gives George a lot of really great advice, especially regarding his health, his diet. Oh yeah, that's right, Mel. The Halloween mask when he didn't he take like a long time to describe some basic mask he was looking for? And so yeah, on Halloween, I think I bring this up later. Like is this like the third or fourth call in a row where George has talked about planning the Halloween video? Like it's crazy to me how much time and energy he put into this, like this attempt to burn Tony. And I mean, and Tony's response video was so much better. And didn't he make it in like 24 hours? Yeah, fine. I wonder exactly how long that that boogeyman narrative was running in his head. Yeah, so that's a good segue into something else I noticed. He brings up the goons a lot in this one. As I just said, that Halloween video. I mean, even if all these videos that we've gotten about him talking with Phyllis, even if they're all like days in a row, it's still a lot of time dedicated towards what was George in his racist wear in the middle of a park burning a pumpkin. I mean, it didn't have like a high production value, so I'm not sure why that ended up taking so much planning. Oh, thanks for the heads up, WTRD radio. Um, that sounds like a setting I need to change. Thanks, man. I'm glad you joined us. Yeah, Elder Kong. Yeah, yeah. It's. I try not to think about that. I don't know. I'm erring on the side that it's like he also mentioned in this video, I believe, that he doesn't masturbate in his vehicle because he like I believe the reason he gave was because he's in public and people could see him. But that doesn't mean he doesn't do it at night. Like when he said that, I kind of interpreted it as he's not beating off while he's driving around in traffic. But if he's like in the middle of an empty parking lot in the middle of the night, I think anything's game. Yeah, George. Uh, George name drops Tony a lot, and I'm sure you all caught that when Phyllis called him Eugene for like the third time in a row. George started to get pretty hot on the top there. Um, and that was the clip I was gonna play, but again, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'll have that for next time. Hopefully, you all heard that, where he kind of admonishes Phyllis for using Eugene instead of Tony. uh, and Phyllis is also talking about how Tony isn't doing a podcast this week, and George keeps bringing it up, trying to find out more. I mean, he seems pretty obsessed with like what Tony is doing in the minute. And same goes with Mel. This is like the second or third call in a row, I think. Maybe just the second call in a row where he asked Phyllis directly what Mel thought about him having her information. He's pretty obsessed with like what is going through the head of the goons, and lately it seems like especially the Fieldins crew. Yeah, Mel, I think it hurts him that you don't care. I mean, that's supposed to be his like kill shot, but it's really meaningless. Also in this call, we got to see him get pretty jealous about how many people Phyllis brought up how many people, excuse me, how many people routinely tune in to Tony when he streams. And George got so butthurt about it. I mean, if you can find an argument that that's anything but sheer jealousy, I'd be very interested in hearing it. Yeah, I think so too, Kirby. We also learned George is still talking with police, which is kind of sad to me, but I don't know. I wouldn't have guessed it, but you all probably would have. He mentions the detective blowing him off, which, I mean, cut them a break. It's a weird situation. George, there's like from a legal standpoint, there's no real way you can tell someone they can't call the police when they feel threatened. So there's just like no way to stop George from continually harassing the police about us critiquing him on the internet and interacting with people in Richmond. And yeah, so obviously, I mean, yeah, there's nothing illegal being done, so it's not a police problem. So of course a detective's not going to be able to do anything. Oh, I feel like I had a lot more to talk about. Um, you know, he did. So he did drop. He did name drop me. Um, and like I don't have much to say about it, but I feel like it would have been weird if I didn't address that he addressed me. So he said I emailed him some female name. I'm not certain what that's referencing specifically, um, but okay. And George and I mean, we don't talk much. I've emailed him a few times asking if he'd want to, you know, talk about some aspect of his life on a stream. And he's emailed me a few times. You know, usually when I release a video, he'll send me something racist. Uh, but it, yeah, he did almost get what I would have considered a really great burn in, which George has never like intentionally made me laugh. He, he's unintentionally made me laugh a lot, but he's never like said a joke that I genuinely laughed at. And I think he was making a joke. He referred to me as like Sham Mir, and I think he was like trying to put the word sham in my name, but it was he just mumbled it from beginning to end. But if he had like stuck the landing and like called me Dr. Shamir, I would have busted out laughing at that. I think that would have been really funny, but nah, I kind of biffed it. Another big thing I do want to say before I hop off. We maybe some people already knew this, but it sounds like George is strapped. He's uh, he's got a taser, and given that, I do want to seriously throw out a word of caution to everybody. Just to remember that an idiot with a taser isn't really different than an idiot with a gun. And George, please be careful. If you accidentally zap yourself and throw your heartbeat out of rhythm, that's going to be really bad. So please do be careful. The NRA may give like free basic safety classes, so I'd definitely look into that. Oh, I like it's. I mean, thinking about George tasing himself on the surface is really funny, but if that happens, I mean, given his health, it may be game over. There's a lot of electricity in a taser. Why is everybody saying it's a good thing? George, be careful with that. Yeah, so that's it for me. I didn't want to take up too much time. Is if there's anything else anyone else wants to bring up about the call, I'll give it a minute to catch up before I sign off. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I figured, you know, maybe a few viewers and people would enjoy the replay. Um, these calls from uh, George Yarid has a negative bank account, and the Inner Circle team are just so amazing and so interesting to study. And I appreciate you all tuning in and giving me some live feedback. That's really helpful. His latest Frasers, yeah, I would love to. Yeah, so he's tangling with the captain again, And I don't know why. As someone who came into this pretty late, like I haven't been involved. I've only been directly involved in like the last 10% of this saga. But I like to be a student of history, so I watch all old videos, and yeah, it seems like historically the captain and George have George has come at him several times in the past, and he always seems to lose pretty badly. So I don't know why. I don't know what's propelling him to go after the captain specifically. Um, I know this all. I believe this all stemmed from the captain's YouTube announcement about the psychic, which is super exciting. Um, but yeah, George does look completely unhinged. His eyes, I think, are very terrifying. Um, yeah, I mean, like it's like his. Yeah, when he gets bug-eyed, it's almost like overacting. It's it's a very harsh transition from his normal squinty eyes. Thank you, Deus. I really appreciate that. So where do you all think George is going in that highway video? I wondered because I thought I had seen Charlotte on one of the signs, and if I remember correctly, I think that's where Phyllis said she was from. If that's true or not, if I'm remembering correctly. No, Gigi was not headed for success. I mean, I have no idea. That's just the only thing, and I don't. I mean, I don't even know for 100% that one of the highway signs said Charlotte, but I thought, and I don't know if she's even in Charlotte. But shout out to Phyllis, who has, I think, done a really good job. Again, I mean, having to listen to the vile things George says over what was it, 3 years, and she still like tries to give him good advice. Oh, Charlottesville, not Charlotte. Might be. Well, I think, yeah, that's really all I wanted to do. Again, I really appreciate y'all coming out and doing this live. Um, we'll see if if I'm able to do this again next week and with a little more production value, I'll definitely try to do that. Um, but otherwise, I really hope you all have a great day, and I love everything you're all doing. See ya.